Hello everyone, I'm Nini FC and this is Blue Lines TV, and today I'm bringing the match preview for our upcoming game against Southampton later today at 3 PM. Now, obviously, apologies for bringing out the match preview so late. I didn't want to crowd out the other videos I released yesterday. I did do a double upload, and sometimes when you release too many videos in a short amount of time, it isn't normally the best thing. But anyway, a quick reminder, if you haven't pressed the bell notification button, please press that and stay notified to all things Blue Lines TV, because I have a lot more videos coming up. I've got another Transfer Daily video coming out tomorrow, and I'll be releasing my Antonio Conte video next week, so you definitely don't want to miss that. But anyway, you guys, getting straight into the match preview, starting with Southampton. Now, I did watch the Leicester game against Southampton. Leicester beat them very convincingly, and I got a lot of ideas, and obviously the number one thing I noticed was how demotivated the Southampton players were, and it is understandable. A few players there feel that they shouldn't be at the club anymore, and they were really priced out from transfer moves. Van Dijk, as an example, hasn't been the same player anymore, and I feel a lot of them might need to move on. I think Ryan Bertrand is another example as well. I think with Romeo, he always puts in 100% effort as always. I think this guy can play at a higher level as well. But with Southampton, you know what? It's a club that I do actually like. I like their philosophy that they do have. Of course, they are restricted by finances at times. Actually, not even finances. I think they're restricted by competition from other clubs in the Premier League. So that's what they've been finding more difficult in terms of player recruitment. But I like how they run things. I like that they have a philosophy and setup at the club. For example, when the likes of Lallana left, Mane came in. When Mane left, Buffal came in. They sign a type of profile of player that fits the system that they want. The youth team players, they really complement the system they want. If anything, the way Southampton run their club is a very, not B-Tech, but very like a beginner level stage of how I think a club should be run effectively at the highest level, and I think Southampton are a testament to that. And sometimes I think, but I don't, you get all these investors that invest in Premier League clubs. Why don't they ever decide to take a chance at Southampton? Because they've got all the infrastructure there to really step up and do big things. But anyway, with Southampton, I think with a club like that, there's always going to be times where they have their highs and they just have their mediocrity. And I think they're having a season like this so far. Pellegrino hasn't really given the team as much confidence. Now, Southampton have always been renowned recently for their work rate and how hard they work. That's always been one factor of their game that hasn't changed. But, recently they're not scoring as many goals. I know that Austin has been on a nice run of form recently, but as a team in general, they just don't score enough. And I think in the Premier League especially, if you're not scoring goals or getting enough goals, it always comes back to haunt you and affect you. Now, anyway, moving on to their style of play, I expect Southampton to use their customary 4-2-3-1, which normally does turn into a 4-3-3 when they're off the ball. Lemina's been a decent signing. I've been hearing good things from Southampton fans. Of course, he doesn't get any goals, but again, even when he was at Juventus, he wasn't playing regularly. But he's another nice factor in terms of winning the ball and good ability and skill on the ball as well. So they like the partnership between him and Romeo. But yeah, it's just the goal scoring thing as well. Now with Southampton, their style of play has always been push the fullbacks up, have the inside forwards or that advanced or the wide playmakers actually cutting inside and then having the traditional number 10 with a guy up front that is able to drop deep, link up the play and also be the focal point of it. And I think Austin has really been benefiting from that in a way, because he is the focal point in the attack, so he does get majority of the service and distribution. And also he's a type of player where he's comfortable, he's okay not touching the ball for 10 minutes. I think he is a bit underrated. I think he is pretty intelligent, surprisingly, in his footballing ability. For example, there's going to be one threat I think we definitely need to be careful of. Austin isn't someone that's going to necessarily stick with and man mark a defender. He'll be looking to run in the spaces in between. And because we use a back three system, that means that we defend zonally a lot of times. Now, Austin is a very good threat inside the box and a very good threat aerially. We've been seeing us getting punished recently. The game against Huddersfield with De Potra, earlier this season against Burnley, where Sam Vokes got 2 goals. I keep stressing this point that when you do use a back three, you are forced to play zonally, because it's not as if 3 players are going to man mark one opposition striker or 1 player is going to man mark 1 opposition striker, because then that makes gaps and holes for you. But again, I think this is why we obviously can see these type of chances, because there are gaps and holes to run into if you time your run, and it makes it very hard to actually defend against these types of crosses that normally come in the books, because usually someone's making a run in from behind, and that's it, they're exposed. I think really it's not as, I don't think it's necessarily down to the players' faults most times, or because our defenders are being poor. I just think it's you know, it's just one of those factors you get from using a back three system. It's just a natural thing that you're going to naturally concede opportunities like that. But you know, with Southampton, another threat they have is down the left-hand side. Ryan Bertrand, I feel, is one of the most underrated left-backs. He's been top 3 left-backs since he's joined Southampton, and he should definitely be playing at a higher level. And I honestly can't believe that we never kept this guy. You know, he's proven to be one of the best left-backs in the Premier League. I mean, I'm not even going to get into Chelsea's lack of, you know, long-term planning. But he's got a decent relationship with Redmond. Another player, you know, I've always seen Redmond as a B-Tech Hazard, you know, in terms of how he dribbles stylistically. Obviously, it's not as consistent or as good, but stylistically, it's a bit similar in terms of how he likes to use his body as well. But he just doesn't have enough goal threat. And I think with Southampton as well, they are too predictable when it comes to breaking down teams in the final third. So I think this is why a lot of Premier League teams have really started to know how to find them out and how to defend against them. But I think another thing they have too is a lack of demotivation as well. You know, sometimes this manager can set up the tactics, but mentally, if the players aren't there in their heads, then you know that's always going to cause problems. I think one famous example for me was when we played Manchester United, and that was just when Jose Mourinho left the club. This is in his first spell. Now, we lost 2-0 to them, but then it was like no energy. None of the players really cared. It was understandable that we were going to lose the game regardless. And yeah, you can tell that a lot of people were demotivated and upset with what had happened. But I think it's similar. I think, you know, the Southampton players still not getting the moves they want and being kind of forced back in a way. I think that's what's really annoyed a lot of them. But yeah, moving on to how I think we can beat them now. This is the thing. I think Conte might go for 3-4-3 because of the game against Huddersfield. And I think with Southampton, they will be looking to play without the ball a lot more. And they've been playing against a lot of the big teams. They have been taking that approach where they do give up and concede possession and try and counter-attack effectively. They're not going to do a West Ham. You know, the difference between defending like a West Ham is West Ham didn't care about creating chances. They literally flooded their own books. They just wanted to make sure that they could stop us from getting a point, basically. You know, proper defending to me is, you know, or counter-attacking is when, you know, you set up the team to nullify opposition players and then hit them on the break in their weak areas. That's what to me is, you know, good counter-attacking, good defending. But with us, I'm not too sure if Conte is going to use 3-4-3 or 3-5-2. Now, I think there could be benefits with a 3-5-2. In the game against Southampton and Leicester, obviously Mahrez has been having a different position, playing in a midfield 3, and I think there's a kind of genius to this too, because whenever Mahrez is collecting the ball, he's collecting it in areas where he has space, he can get past the man easily, he can get more touches of the ball, and you've got to think, when Mahrez is on the ball in deeper positions, once he's beaten a man, imagine the space he's created for the front players, and then he's drawing out Southampton players, because again they have to move out of their positions to try and close down Mahrez. And I think this is why he's been in such exceptional form recently. I wouldn't be surprised that he'll be the new player of the month. And it's that type of tactical flexibility I'd like to see. Now, you know, I think a 3-5-2 can work against Southampton. Again, I was stressing the difference between Southampton defending and West Ham. West Ham put all their players inside their own half. They didn't care about creating chances. That wasn't their game plan, so of course it was going to be a struggle because they literally parked the whole bus. I think Conte could have done things in that game. You know, I can't see why he wouldn't have brought on Mitchell as well to support Morata up front. I don't know why we need to keep a back 3 necessarily, but you know, I've already spoken about that. If you want to hear my thoughts on that, watch the previous match review that I've done. But I think, you know, it's always going to be about, can we get Hazard in those effective areas? Now, of course, if he's playing in a 3-4-3, I think Hazard collected the ball out wide, where, you know, naturally he's able to run at people a bit more and really help unsettle opposition defences and positioning. I think that could work as well with some overlapping runs as well. As we were seeing in the Huddersfield game, where Alonso and Moses had a ton of freedom. Now, I know there's levels between Huddersfield and Southampton, but you could really see how that worked in really drawing out the opposition defence and really creating those holes for our attacking players to exploit, and we were then able to really put, create those overload situations where we were creating 3 versus 2s, 4 versus 3s, even 4v2s as well. That goal by Willian, we had 3 players in the box then against 2 Huddersfield Town players. It was no surprise that we had the advantageous positions to obviously get the goal. And they're the type of situations that we can create by using a 3-4-3. But again, with a 3-5-2, which becomes a 3-1-4-2, that can happen as well. But of course, the danger is when Team C Hazard collecting the ball, essentially, they have more impetus then to, really make sure that they defend deep and narrow to try and block off those paths. And in turn, when you really stop any holes or positions for Hazard to collect the ball, that stops any gaps being open in the opposition team, and that stops any third-man runs being made that can really draw out opposition defences. So that can be the issue as well. But I think that could be a creative solution to this, which I've been thinking about, and this is purely because of Claude Puel using Mahrez. I've always thought, why couldn't Willian potentially be used in a 3-man midfield at times? Because I feel, as Chelsea fans, I think we see 2 levels of Willian. I think Willian on the left and in the middle has been much more effective compared to him on the right-hand side. I mean, for Mourinho, a lot of times he was playing centrally or playing as that cam in the, as the number 10 in the team. And it was no surprise why his form was very good that season. And that type of tactical creativity would be nice to see, because I feel maybe Willian collecting the ball deeper. We know that he's exceptional at beating a man. He's got very good dribbling. That could be the position that could really help, elevate some of his performances, and that could be the third man running that we need. And imagine Willian collecting the ball deeper, running past someone. That's immediately going to attract 1 or 2 Southampton players to try and close them down, potentially then freezing space for a Hazard who plays a free role where he's able to roam from left to right, moving into gaps. And also you've got the intelligence of Morata and his movement. That could be a facet, and I think at times with that flexibility as well, where you're in a 3-5-2 which can convert to a 3-4-3 at times, and it can convert back to 3-5-2. That would be interesting to see. I think Willian could fulfill that role. Maybe one day I would like Conte to try that. I think that could have some benefits to the team. But with Fabregas in the team as well, he can provide that as well. But again, he doesn't have that dribbling ability to really beat a man, to exploit obviously that, to draw out opposition defences. Of course, he has the passing ability to do that, but there is a risk that Southampton, seeing Hazard playing centrally, will just decide to defend centrally, defend deep. So I think in this game, I think 3-4-3 might be the route to go, especially because some players are on form now, and I think form always plays a massive factor in terms of obviously getting a favourable result, because obviously when I think a player's more confident, they're more willing to attempt a shot they wouldn't normally attempt, or attempt a skill they wouldn't normally attempt, or play the pass that they'd hold on to a second or 2 longer than they needed to. I think that's the type of things that you can create when you obviously use a 3-4-3 because of the players' good form. And I think 3-4-3 should be the system to go to for this game. I think nullifying the threat on the left from Southampton. I think once you do that, you really nullify a lot of the good things that they can do. It's not the same threat on the right anymore. Tadic ain't the same player without like a proper target man for him to really link up with and move into those advanced positions further upfield. And this is what I'm saying about Southampton being pretty predictable when it comes to attacking. And we've kind of seen this at Chelsea too under Mourinho. How often was that left hand side the main focal point, and after a while teams really sussed out how to adapt against it and obviously get favourable results against us. But anyway, I think in a 3-4-3, I think with freedom, I think with our wide players collecting the ball a bit wider instead of playing, collecting it so central, I think that could be enough to create those overloads against Southampton to get the result. So I think we might concede a sloppy goal. I wouldn't be surprised to see Austin scoring because of what I was describing earlier in this video. So I'm going to be going for 3-1. I think we'll get goals in this game. I think that even though Conte is worried about Southampton, even though, I don't know, that press conference in a way kind of annoys me a little bit. Sometimes I feel he overthinks or worries unnecessarily. I think, we're in good form. Southampton have barely won in the past couple of months. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. But anyway, you guys, I'm going for 3-1. In the comment section below, let me hear some of your thoughts and opinions of what I'm talking about. And anyway, you guys, I need to go now. I need to start getting ready because I'm actually going to the game later today. So I expect the match review probably later on this evening because it takes me a while to get back home. Anyway, you guys, I'm the FC. This is CWANless TV. Signing out.